What is it?
The movie opens in the year 1850 with an author named Herman Melville arriving at Nantucket Island. His purpose? To meet an old innkeeper named Thomas Nickerson, the last living survivor of the sinking of the whale ship Essex. When Herman knocks on the door, Thomas's wife, mistaking him for a customer, tells him they're closed. But Herman produces a letter and introduces himself, persuading her to let him in. Inside, he approaches Thomas and expresses his desire to hear the story of the Essex. However, the old man refuses to talk. Determined, Herman offers him all the money in his wallet in exchange for the tale. But Thomas remains unyielding, dismissing him with harsh words and asking him to leave. Feeling humiliated, Herman turns to go, but Thomas's wife intervenes. She apologizes for her husband's behavior and asks Herman to wait. She then speaks to Thomas, reminding him of their financial struggles. Finally, the old man agrees to her request, reluctantly telling Herman he will share the story, but only for as long as he can endure it. What follows takes us back to the year 1820, a time when whale hunting was a common and lucrative practice. Whalers hunted these majestic creatures for their oil, a substance so valuable that people traded and gambled for it. Here, we meet Owen Chase, a farmer and whaler from Nantucket who is happily married to his wife, Peggy. Owen works for a whaling company, and one day, he eagerly meets with his superiors, expecting to be appointed captain of their new ship, Essex. But his excitement turns to disappointment when they inform him of a change in plans. Instead of giving him the captaincy, they have assigned the position to George Pollard, an inexperienced mariner from a prominent whaling family. Owen is relegated to first mate. Upset by the decision, Owen considers walking away, but the executives promise to give him the captaincy next time and even increase his wages to appease him. Reluctantly, Owen agrees, on the condition that they sign a written contract guaranteeing his promotion. The next day, Owen prepares for the year-long whale hunting expedition. His wife, Peggy, is visibly worried. Before he departs, she gives him her locket and makes him promise to return home safely. Later, the whalers gather at the dock as the crew of the Essex sets sail. Among them is 14-year-old Thomas Nickerson, who has joined as a cabin boy. As the ship ventures out to sea, Captain George Pollard begins issuing orders, sparking minor tensions with the crew. A short while later, trouble arises. The ship's sail gets stuck, causing the vessel to lose its balance. Seeing the danger, Owen takes charge. With practiced skill, he climbs a mast and expertly unfurls the sail, stabilizing the ship. George, inexperienced and observing Owen's prowess, feels a sting of envy. That evening at the dining table, George retaliates. He makes cruel remarks about Owen and his father, words that cut deep. Though infuriated, Owen knows better than to confront the captain. Instead, he leaves the table abruptly, humiliated. The next day, George resumes giving orders, and Owen, despite his frustration, has no choice but to cooperate. Later, Owen spots a sea storm brewing on the horizon. Recognizing the danger, he quickly informs George, advising a change in direction. But George, stubborn and dismissive, ignores the warning and presses forward. The storm soon descends upon them, battering the ship mercilessly. As the situation worsens, George orders the crew to retreat, but Owen warns that it's too late. He rallies the crew, urging them to hold on through the chaos. Miraculously, they weather the storm, their lives intact, though the ship suffers significant damage. After the storm passes, George announces his decision to return to Nantucket Island for repairs. He also demands that Owen write an apology letter, claiming Owen disobeyed his orders and endangered the crew. This accusation enrages Owen, who finally confronts the captain. He reminds George that it was his decision to sail into the storm, putting everyone at risk. George, refusing to take responsibility, lashes out, warning Owen not to overstep. He boasts of his family's esteemed maritime legacy, flaunting his lineage. The argument grows heated, but eventually, the two agree to set their differences aside for the sake of the mission. 3 months later, the scene shifts. The Essex is now deep in the open sea. It is here that the crew finally spots a large pod of whales swimming nearby. Wasting no time, they board their whaling boats and pursue the majestic creatures. As they close in, Owen harpoons a massive sperm whale. The wounded animal dives deep into the ocean, dragging their ropes with it. The crew anxiously watches as their ropes begin to run out. Some suggest cutting the whale loose to avoid being pulled under, but Owen insists they hold on. His determination pays off, Just as the rope nears its end, the whale succumbs and dies, marking a triumphant but hard-earned victory. Following this, they tow the whale towards the ship and initiate the oil extraction process. However, the opening in the whale's head isn't big enough, which creates difficulty in the extraction process. As a result, Thomas, being the youngest and smallest among the crew, is tasked with entering the whale's head to scoop out the remaining oil. Several months pass since their first hunt, and no more whales appear for the Essex. The biggest problem is that they are running out of food. George realizes that the Atlantic Ocean holds no sighting of whales, and as a result, the Essex sails past Cape Horn to the Pacific, hoping for better luck in catching one. After a very long journey, they arrive at Atacames, Ecuador. There, they meet with a Spanish captain who tells them that his crew found the bountiful offshore grounds 2,000 miles to the west. But he also reveals that a vengeful, enormous white whale destroyed his ship, killing 6 of his men. Regardless, George and Owen dismiss the story as a myth and lead the expedition westward. Exactly 14 months pass when they arrive at the offshore grounds, situated in the heart of the sea. Just as the Spanish captain said, the Essex crew finds a pod of whales. The crew is very happy and excited, thinking that they can extract as much oil as they need and return home. They instantly launch their whaling boats and sail in the direction of the whales. But as they prepare to begin the hunt, a massive white sperm whale with scarred skin attacks Owen's boat, flipping it upside down. Following this, Owen and his team swim back to the Essex and start repairing their boat quickly. Amidst this, the white whale suddenly attacks the Essex, causing water to leak from the base. This sends the crew into a state of panic. However, Owen is still adamant about hunting this white whale, so he doubles the harpoon and hurls it towards it. The harpoon hits the target right on the point, and the whale starts swimming down. Soon after, the rope, which is tied to the mast, runs out, causing the entire ship to collapse. As a consequence, the harpoons penetrating the whale's body also come off, freeing it again. Now, with the Essex sinking at a rapid pace, the crew decides to abandon it. They hurriedly grab as many food supplies as they can and get on the 3 intact whaling boats. Just then, the whale oil the crew had gathered earlier catches fire, causing the entire ship to explode. Now, the crew must sail hundreds of miles to shore with very limited supplies. The following morning, they analyze the sea map and set off for their tough journey. A few days pass by, and they are again hit by a sea storm. The storm is so powerful that one of the crew members, Matthew, who is also Owen's childhood friend, gets injured. The crew manages to survive the storm and continues their journey. But as weeks pass, they grow extremely tired and are forced to survive on a mere piece of biscuit as their daily food. Despite this harsh situation, Owen takes care of his injured friend, but the rest of the crew considers Matthew a burden. After 34 days of being stranded, they finally spot an island. Filled with a new sense of hope, they all sail toward it. As they are about to approach the shore, Owen senses something amiss and instructs everyone to stop. It turns out to be the same white whale that has been following them from the very beginning. The whale launches another attack on the crew, destroying their boats and throwing them into the water. Some crew members lose their lives, while others wash ashore on the island. As soon as they reach the island, they devour any edible things they can find, such as raw fish and bird eggs. Later that night, they camp inside a small tunnel on the island. They ignite a fire, hoping to catch the attention of any passing ships. However, even after several weeks, no one comes to their rescue. One day, while searching for food, Owen discovers the dead bodies of earlier castaways in a cave. This grim discovery makes him realize that help may never arrive and that they might meet the same fate. Owen urges the crew to leave the island, fearing they might die waiting before another ship passes by. Following this, they begin repairing their damaged boats to leave the place. On the day of departure, everyone agrees to leave except for 4 men, including the injured Matthew, who have given up. Even though there is very little hope, Owen promises to send a rescue team once he reaches home. After this, he and the rest of the crew set sail on their boats. On the 48th day of being stranded, one of the crew members dies on the boat from starvation. The others decide to wrap the body and cast it into the sea, but Owen intervenes. He tells them not to throw away anything that can keep them alive. The members are shocked by this idea, but they are forced to cannibalize him for their survival. This grim and harrowing moment breaks the young Thomas into tears. At present, the older Thomas is overcome with remorse for his cannibalism and stops his story. Herman, deeply moved by the story, asks if Thomas has told anyone about it. Thomas admits he hasn't even shared it with his wife, fearing she might not love him for what he did. At that very moment, His wife, who has been secretly listening to the story, walks in and reassures him that she still loves him. This encourages Thomas to finish the rest of his story. Back in the past, the crew members have been stranded for 71 days. The 3 boats are now separated by the currents, and unfortunately, one is lost. The situation has deteriorated to the point that the men in George's boat even draw straws to determine who should be sacrificed for their next meal. One day, the white whale shows up for one more time, and Owen gets into position for a final attack. The whale breaches for a moment, allowing Owen to see a portion of his previously thrown harpoon still embedded above the whale's eye. Owen hesitates and stares into the whale's eye as the creature stares back at him. Owen then lowers his harpoon, deciding not to kill the whale. Following this encounter, the majestic white whale swims away peacefully and is never seen again. After a few days, a passing ship spots George's boat, and they are rescued. Meanwhile, Owen's boat continues to drift with no food or water. The survivors are on the verge of death when their boat thankfully reaches one of the islands in Chile. From there, the survivors are rescued and brought back to Nantucket, where they finally reunite with their distressed families. But before the survivors return home, they are summoned by the Nantucket ship's owners to discuss the incident. The executives ask George and Owen to cover up the story to protect the industry's reputation. However, Owen refuses, claiming it would be unfair to dismiss what the crew had gone through. Having enough of their dishonesty, Owen resigns and leaves. That day, the young Thomas meets Owen for one last time, and the latter hands him a whalebone pin before departing. The following day at the court, George, who is motivated by Owen's words, reveals the truth, much to the executive's anger. At present, Thomas says that Owen, being a man of his word, sent a ship to rescue the surviving men on the earlier island. Regrettably, Matthew had already passed away, but the team successfully rescued the other 3 survivors. According to Thomas, Owen then continued sailing the seas and became a merchant captain, while George carried out another failed attempt to find and kill the whale. After hearing the entire story, Herman expresses gratitude to Thomas, acknowledging that he has learned a new lesson. In the final scene, we see that Herman has completed his novel by the name Moby Dick, which became the biggest hit in America. And with that, this story ends here. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like our channel and subscribe if you enjoy content like this. Also, let us know what movie you would love us to recap for you.